With that in note, it is 6 o'clock and we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Let's see. So,
All right. Starting with the minutes. Do we have any corrections to the minutes?
it was a long meeting, so
It was.
tried to condense it as much as possible.
Well, hearing no corrections to the minutes, they stand as read. Item one on tonight's agenda is the active transportation plan, part one.
Okay, and Scott is here, so he'll go over everything that he's done since our last meeting.
All right, thank you, Daphne. And can I share screen
Oh yeah.
screen? Let's see. All right, so just to kick this off, and I'll try to keep this brief because I know we have a packed agenda, but I wanted to do a brief review of what we've done so far and and then get into part one of the plan. So back in October of 2024, which was actually before my time here at the city, we kicked off with a public input survey that got 300 some responses. That's been very helpful for setting the general baseline information uh, for public input that we're looking for. Um, Additionally, for public input, we've looked at the Greater Madison MPO is also doing an active transportation plan on a similar timeline to us. We were able to review a lot of these more granular details of comments that people have left in terms of their public input. All of that has been summarized in one of the maps, and this was presented at our last meeting, which is a heat map of the most challenging intersections throughout the city. This is something that will be really helpful, and I think will be a really great thing to bring to our open houses, which I'll get to in a second. We've also gone through and updated the bike network map, which sounds like a simple thing, but as you all know, this was a labor of love that we went through and updated every new path that's been put in, reviewed the previous plan drafts, and updated all of this. And now Daphne has this a nice GIS file that is very easy for us internally to, when new redevelopments pop up, we can check to see if it's on any future bike facilities. Accompanying that, we talked about the missing links narrative summary at our last meeting in February. And way back in October, uh, we reviewed, general guidance for different types of bike facilities that are represented on that map. So everything from sidewalks to uh, bike lanes, um, to local street connecting routes, uh, all of that good stuff. And lastly, at our last meeting, we reviewed some overarching goals and strategies for the active transportation plan, which we are working um, to complete. At our last meeting, we discussed increasing some of the public participation, particularly on the front end of the planning process. As we were looking at the timeline, something we realized was a really great opportunity was, rather than trying to push for adoption around Bike Week, uh, just a month off or pushing adoption back 1 month actually meant that our open houses and public survey would happen during Bike Week. So that was a really great opportunity, we thought, to really get more public engagement, reach out to more folks throughout the region that might pass through Middleton. So we would host uh, bring some of the maps and open house materials to the community bike ride itself, which last year we had 80 participants. Uh, two stone, so we bring that two Stonehorse screen, have a nice outdoor day where people can take their markers and provide their feedback on everything. And we'd also target doing one at a school, particularly because of the emphasis on safe routes to school, and having another one at City Hall because we love having open houses at City Hall. Additionally, we're breaking this into two parts for you all to take a look at. Um, in part so that we can talk more in depth about each section, and partly because, in full transparency, I dropped a draft off on different people's desks to confirm that all the information was correct on Tuesday. So figured I should give them more than a day or two to um, make sure that everything is all set and good to go. In terms of describing the different programs that they are managing and operating. So with all of that, we would be targeting a July adoption date by Common Council. Part one, I've been describing as the why are we doing this and what have we already done section. And I'm sure you've all read the packet already, so I won't belabor the point too much, but really wanted to highlight in particular some of the projects and plans that came out of that previous plan to demonstrate ideas that have worked in the city of Middleton that seemed relevant for upcoming and future projects in the city. A lot of plans have a set of case studies within them, and Middleton, we're fortunate to have a couple case studies of our own that we can actually just walk outside our front door and go check out for ourselves. So with that, I will stop talking and wanted to get any feedback from the committee after having read through this, what your thoughts were and areas that things should be tweaked or changed or other ideas of things to add.
Kirsten.
Yeah, I love the idea of placing this during bike week. And if we could have, if there is inclement weather during the ride, is there any way to either have a library room or something like that set aside? If it's raining outside, people aren't going to want to look at the maps and go over anything. But yeah, I think having those three during that week would be great, especially we could have one during the day on the weekend for the ride, and then two evening ones, or an afternoon and an evening one.
Great. And yeah, we could book a backup room in the library if it's just a light drizzle. The Stonehorse Green stage is typically pretty good at keeping things dry and keeping people out of the rain. But yeah, that's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Brett.
Uh, sorry, Scott, for the highlighted projects, it feels like all of them are from the past 3 or 4 years, although this plan is from 2009. Is there anything older that we can squeeze in to highlight?
Yeah, I would say the oldest one is
Is Gammon,
is
yeah.
Gammon. That was 2014 is when that happened. That this was actually one of the main identified ones in that plan. That there was a bunch of graphics and designs of how the street
Yeah.
should look, and then got implemented. And maybe I could work better on clarifying this. The Misty Valley Trail had not yet been installed yet. So that was I think that's a really great example in the city of where we required the trail be put in anticipation of future connections being made.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of gap of time for various reasons. The development didn't move forward as quickly as we would have thought in
That's where I
surrounding
live,
ones,
so
but
I'm familiar.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot that you're from up in that
Yeah.
area. But now that we already have that section, it makes all the connectivity much easier to put in versus if we were trying to retrofit it into a subdivision that didn't have it. So, but I can clean that up a bit more to make it more clear that some of these are older versus just past few years.
Well, even the Misty Valley that trail went in 14. Um,
Okay.
it it just
Yeah.
it just read to me like it seemed like you were highlighting more very recent stuff like Red Tail and the Mendota Pass. Um, the Allen Path was done, I think, before Gammon, um, but I'm not positive. So just showing the span of time from 2009 to today might be helpful to illustrate that we weren't cramming stuff in at the last minute.
Got it. Thank you.
Kristen.
Yeah, the Allen Path was done by Penny Klein. Ooh, I want to say 15 years ago started, but completed then last year. High Point Road would be another connector, a missing link, be just south of, is it south where Capital Brewery is? So that would be another missing link to add on because we added those, what, 3 or 4 blocks of bike lane on High Point.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if we could maybe change this to like a timeline so we can just like have a timeline to see all the other paths that we've put in. Um, yeah, I can help Scott, or also Jolyn has probably better design skills than I do, and she could probably whip up a cute little timeline to show all the different paths we've made.
I see Thea has her hand
The
raised.
yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I'm done, I know. Yeah, in general, I think this is awesome. One small thing on slide 13, the existing plans and policies. I always personally get a little bit confused on how each plan relates to each other and the purpose of the plans. And so I think this overview is quite helpful. But I wonder if there's any small edits we can make to make it even clearer, like the different goals of the plan and how they relate to each other.
Can you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, and I know it wasn't super clear. I guess it could be, I mean, just looking at all these plans, maybe it's self-evident that, one is focused more on bike and pedestrian safety, one is focused on streets, and I guess the comprehensive is everything. So maybe that's clear. I guess they all come out of the same kind of office or division within the city, right? Or the planning department.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
With input from everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe it's clear enough. I always just in my mind get a little, have trouble placing all the plans, but your first sentence. I like the city of Middleton's, it sets the expectation. I like that. I like the comprehensive plan sets priorities for the next year. And so maybe it's just in the bike and pedestrian plan, you kind of start with the purpose of
Got
the.
it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. That's helpful.
While we're looking at those, just a small reminder note. I like how it looks like there are two links in place for the complete streets policy and the complete streets during construction policy. And I want to make sure that the bike and pedestrian plan has a link to it and that the comprehensive plan has a link to it.
Great. Thank you.
Also, to fill the silence, I am strongly in favor of the sixth item there being more fun. Aesthetics matter. People often, most people's choices are functionally aesthetic choices, and they often try to disguise them and make them sound more serious than they actually are. But I think sometimes we need to just say uh, where it's reasonable, say yes, this is more fun. This is much better, um, and play to that strength because it will get people interested.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad Jolyn helped put this graphic together. I'm glad she found a good clip art representing that because, some of these, while these are all important, and I think especially after I wrote the stronger economically section, I was thinking like this has to be fun too. So so thanks for that comment.
I really like pages 11 and 12. I think they're really nicely done.
Of the packet or of the packet item?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
The packet. The page, yeah, page
Oh,
7, the
yeah,
graphic and the page preceding the graphic that
got
explains.
it. Yeah. Thank you.
Page 11, 6 of 13. Yes. Jumping back oh, Kirsten.
Sorry. Would it be appropriate at all, does anybody think, to have any links to all of the studies that Tony Evers has put out, the socioeconomic impacts of active transportation and silent sports for statewide and for communities? Because Tony Evers has put out all of the numbers, and I could probably get them because I just wrote an article on him, but I don't know if that would be even appropriate, to add to this in some way.
I think so. Going back to this section, for I was trying to keep this as close to one page as possible just for the sake of the flow of the plan, but I am planning to put together an appendix of just as many links as possible to various things that are relevant. Because I think one thing I've found as a newer staffer is just figuring out what exists and what doesn't exist and where they are. A lot of people worked for multiple decades here and it just had it all memorized, but putting it all into one spot is a helpful thing, I think, for staff and for the public just to better inform them about everything that's going on. So if anybody has links like that they want to send me to add to that appendix, that is meant to just be a pile of everything. So please shoot those my way and I will put together a quick sentence or two summary of each of them with links.
Awesome. I was just thinking, like, for those naysayers who say, I don't want to pay for bike paths, I don't want to pay for sidewalks, to be able to have a link on this saying why it helps the community economically. You know what I mean? Then it's a nice little link to remind them, oh, it does come back.
Yeah, on that note, everybody be on the lookout for good links that fit into each of those six things. Um, on the graphics, the more fun might be the easiest one, but like we can definitely find links for everything else as well.
On a slightly
Um,
Well, I
hmm,
was just going to say on a slightly different note, my one other ask that reminded me of is pictures make the plan more fun. So if anybody has fun pictures of you out on the trails, I went out and took some myself, but it's less fun if it's just a kind of a picture of a trail on a dreary day with nobody on it. And I assume you all have pictures of yourselves on the trail. So those would be fun to kind of sprinkle throughout the plan as the final formatting takes shape. So if you can send those to me, that would be awesome.
right.
Yeah, sorry, Scott. Could you just briefly scroll back to the? It's not in our packet. The bike trails map you had up. Yes. So are these? are these future trails or are these all existing trails? Like someone could look at it and say, I want to go over there.
Yeah, so we need to clarify that in the legend a little bit, but the solid lines are existing trails and the dotted lines are future trails.
Okay,
Yep. So
then that answers that. Then I don't have any corrections for you. That yeah, just having that in the legend would be fantastic then.
Mhm.
great. Thank you.
Thanks.
For our next two meetings, it was mentioned the public comment opportunity at PBT committee meetings related to that. How do we feel about hybrid? Um, I will admit upfront, it's not my favorite thought, but at the same time, I suspect there are going to be people who would prefer to give feedback in that venue forum. Kim.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend going hybrid for that meeting. I think that makes the most sense. A lot of people that might want to comment may not have access to Zoom or a computer or be able to participate online. And so if we give them an actual space to go to, I think that that would be helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, Scott and I can work on reserving some rooms. Hopefully we won't get kicked over to the library or anything. But yeah, we can get the rooms for hybrid.
So so just to clarify on that, that it's not on the updated timeline as being both the April and the May meeting, but it is in two paragraphs back that it would be for the April and the May meetings. So are we hybrid for two meetings or hybrid for one meeting May?
That was my mistake on I was updating it and forgot to update it in both parts. The plan would be to
Okay.
do that at both the April and the May meeting, just to give additional opportunities for people to weigh in, and that'll be a nice lead into when the committee discusses it. And the
All right.
other thing that after this got published that Daphne flagged for me is that April 2nd lands during Passover, so that meeting date might need to move a little bit, likely to
Hmm.
the 9th, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Do we have other comments or feedback?
All right. Thank you all so much for the detailed feedback. I'll take those changes and I'll see you next month with the part two. I'll try to get that out um, as early as possible so that you have that's a little bit more lengthy and text heavy section. So to give you all enough time to take it all in and send any questions that you have.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number two, planning for bike week.
Okay. Give me one sec. Let me find the screen that I need to share. Okay. Okay, so for bike week, so it's all the way back. It's usually the first week of June, but I figured we should start planning now so we can get, we have some sponsors to reach out to, and then, talking about the community bike ride and all of that. I think it'd be better to get this all squared away as early as possible so we can, start promoting it as soon as possible as well. So yeah, the first one is our bike week kickoff. So last year we did the community bike ride, I think on the first day, which was, Sunday afternoon. And so we did a community bike ride, and then as Scott shared, we're planning on doing public input for the ATP. And then I think we had mentioned before to have like a bike repair station or something, maybe a temporary station at Stonehorse Green with wheel and sprocket or something like that. So if you guys have any ideas on, I remember feedback from last year was that the bike ride might have been too long if you were bringing your kid. And so maybe we could do like a kid-friendly ride and, a longer ride, something like that. I think right for now, the bike ride can still be up in the air, but I'd like to hear some of your ideas about that and, timing of, afternoon or morning or something like that would be helpful.
Kirsten.
If we're doing it on Sunday, I would say an early afternoon, just because a lot of people do attend church. And we could get more people if we do our early afternoon. Daphne, were you able to contact Round Trip to get them scheduled? Because they can also bring Madison Metro passes, bike maps, and then also the what's the data bike? The cool data bike.
Oh yeah.
Because we should have that on hand, because that's what they had at the Bike Winter commuter station. And it's such a cool topic of conversation to show what we're doing with it. You said that Kylie's going to be riding it around somebody else, and it would be really cool to have that. I think that 2 different routes, like a 3-mile route that is kid friendly, and then maybe 6-mile route would be amazing. And we could, then we're not going to have so many issues too of that accordion effect. And already Long Table and Chocolate Shop have said that they will give discounts again to Bike Week participants, as long as they come in and say that they're a part of the Bike Week. So we can always put those down. And if we're having 2 night meetings, listening session meetings, and then are we thinking about having 2 commuter station or 3 commuter station days?
That's a good question. So I'm pretty sure last year we had a commuter station almost every day.
No, we showed up last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was looking through it might have been, the year before. I was looking through some of the older Bike Week stuff that Mark had left me. And so, I listed out all of the people who had previously sponsored a commuter station. So it seemed like at one point there might have been 5.
There used to be 5. Yeah, last year
Okay.
was the first year that there weren't 5. I'm thinking 3 would be ideal.
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, yeah.
And then we can have those 2 informational meetings on the alternate days in the evening, so that we're still offering something every day, but on those scattered days, if possible.
Okay.
And then do we have a budget at all from sustainability that we could have for the kids ride, maybe like a decorate your bike station prior and invite people to come down a half an hour prior to decorate their bikes for the bike ride?
Yeah, I'd have to reach out to Sustainability Committee. I think they would be willing to help out, maybe even like sponsor one of the commuter stations. The Decorate the Bike Station could be a great idea for our arts committee as well. And I know they have some budget, so we could maybe get both
more
of
for
them
the
involved.
Sunday ride, prior to the Sunday ride.
Okay.
Kim?
Now, those are all great ideas. I want to definitely second the idea that we split up that the bike day community ride. Last year's turnout was fantastic, but it was really difficult to manage that many people. And from a safety perspective, it was hard to cross like the intersection at Parmenter and University without, having to either break up the ride or having motorists wait and us kind of disobey the light. so we have to figure out how to rejigger that a little bit. And I think that having a longer and shorter version where we split that up is a great idea. But yeah, as far as every other day, there should be a bike event of some sort every day of that week. And so I like the idea of doing the 2 listening sessions on those alternate days.
Okay.
If we could advertise what do we have? I didn't, and I apologize, I didn't even think of looking this up first, but I know that the event schedule is largely available now for Stone Horse Green. Is the community bike ride on that yet?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'll have to check on that, but yeah, we can probably add it to there pretty easily.
Yeah, because I wonder if that is a thing that we can try to drum up a little bit for especially for the public engagement part of that. Like,
Mhm.
hey, come out, decorate your bike, go on this ride if you want to, have some music maybe, but do it as an event.
Mhm.
Yeah, that way people
Yeah.
can get food at restaurants and stuff and then sit there afterwards. So it benefits all the businesses too.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna +3 the idea of splitting up the rides and specifically having like a family-friendly, kid-friendly one. I didn't attend last year because I didn't think it would be friendly for kids, and then I regretted it because I heard there were tons of kids. And so I think there'd be a lot of enthusiasm if we did build one as, specifically for kids. Decorating the bikes, I think, is such an excellent idea, and I could see that being another way to generate excitement. I'm trying to think if there's a way to get the schools involved, and I'm thinking about the Good Neighbor, right? Parade,
Mhm.
right, where they have like schools and floats, and like maybe that's over engineering this thing, but something to think about. But I'm excited.
Mhm.
Steve.
Yeah, just one thing I thought we brought up after last year's ride was that it might have been helpful to have the police involved, just doing some traffic direction. I just want to make sure we get that noted so that we could do a little planning with that too.
Yeah.
Especially we have 2 groups, it probably would be really helpful.
And that's a teaching event for the police officers too. So is it Officer O'Connor or O'Connor? Yes, O'Connor is the new officer, the training officer. Let's see
Mhm.
if we can get him involved.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and then so I have listed some of these previous sponsors. Do you guys have possibly any other sponsors that we can maybe reach out to? Feel like it's better to have more sponsors and then, see if they can, maybe we could possibly have a commuter station every single day. Um, I know maybe someone had mentioned reaching out to Wheel and Sprocket for something. Um, but yeah, if you guys have any other ideas.
Wheel and Sprocket would be great to have on hand to do like little tune-ups or brake checks before the
Mhm.
ride. Yeah, they could set
Okay,
up a
yeah.
stand. You could ask them. Vitruvius is new coffee shop, and they haven't
Mhm.
been a part of this yet. We've used Barriques several times, so I think Vitruvius would be a great one to hit.
Brad, you had something to say?
I was going to suggest Barriques, so Kirsten got there first. So
Okay.
that's that.
Grapewater's been hosting a lot of political events recently, so they might be interested. I mean, what about Long Table? This feels somewhat on brand for them.
So Long Table actually does offer a discount for the whole week.
Great.
Yeah, a dollar off frites and pours. So
My only
Yeah,
other
if any-
sorry,
oh,
is
go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
that, I feel like a lot of new businesses are coming to town in the next few weeks and months, and so we should just keep an eye on them because this could be a good marketing opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anything, these businesses could just do what Long Table does and, provide some kind of discounts that week, and then hopefully we can funnel more business to them that way.
Ben,
Any thoughts about having a like bicycle safety talk from our police department? Like maybe that could be in front of the community bike ride, because one of the other things that's coming up on our agenda is e-bikes and trail etiquette part of that, and I think that would be helpful to have as well.
Kirsten.
I agree with Alder Madden on that. In the past, Kim, we've used the Bicycle Federation because we've actually done the training for the police department on this. With the Bicycle Federation, I bet the Bike Fed's going to be crazy busy that week. But I think just having them, maybe they could talk about crosswalk safety. So Jim Blodgett, who used to be the chair of this committee a long time ago, he's actually certified in being a bike. Oh, I can't remember the specific term, but he led the bike rodeo last year. He helped lead the bike rodeo. I would rather have somebody who's actually trained in this versus the police department, because the police department, we had to train and they didn't know all the laws. So it would frighten me unless they were trained properly to use them. I wonder if we could get Jim Blodgett to do it. I can reach out to him and ask.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay. So it sounds like everyone is in favor of like a 3 mile and then maybe a 6 mile ride. Um, and so if you guys have any ideas for those routes, feel free to send them over my way. That way we can kind of look into it. I have the map that Mark created last year. So this was just an overall map of, all the bike facilities. I believe they went up from Stonehorse Green along the North Fork path and then down the South Fork path, and then they came back down along Parmenter. So that was the path they went on last year. But if you guys have any other ideas for paths that we could do around town, feel free to send those my way, and then we can maybe look at some of the routes at the next meeting.
Yeah.
One just quick suggestion, honestly, for the kids, right? I think you could do 2 lower sections of the Conservancy, the Creek Corridor Path,
Mhm.
up to Century, there and back. But
Okay.
that's what is that? That would be about 3 miles from Stonehorse Green.
Okay.
Because that would minimize, you really would not be crossing many streets at that point. And the kids would,
Mhm.
slopes.
Kirsten.
With the kids ride too, just having somebody on hand that feels comfortable, maybe using it as a teaching time to teach them how to use RRFBs and crosswalks. So have it fun, but also use it as an information time. You know what I mean? And you could have a cop and maybe one of us talking about how to use RFBs when crossing Allen Boulevard to be safe and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Right. So we have some time. So if we don't have anything else, let's think about this some more and move on to item number 3, the draft e-bike, e-moto, and other e-micromobility device regulations.
Yes, so this was prepared by Greater Madison MPO. We had like a joint meeting back in maybe like September or October, and with just like everyone that's in the Greater Madison region about, transportation very generally. And one of the biggest things that came out of that meeting was everyone was asking questions about e-bikes and, speed and all of these things. And so they created this kind of document about regulations for e-scooters and all of that. And, basically the main thing is, e-bikes, e-scooters that or e-bikes specifically are, allowed. They're considered just like regular bikes. The issue is, because they are very, regulated, they have like the different class 1, 2, 3. The issue that we usually get complaints about are what they're now defining as e-motos. And so this is further down. They had a lot of definitions in this. Yeah, so these e-motos are, sometimes they're gas powered, sometimes they're, these electric powered bikes that go much faster and than a typical e-bike. And so they also created this nice graphic, which I'm hoping they'll give us like an editable version so we can, instead of having all these like weird asterisks, we can just have one for Middleton. And then, that way people can we can have this either on the website or, included in our active transportation plan about, where people can ride and roll and use e-motos, which is not allowed basically anywhere. So
Daphne,
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
could you put that graphic on screen? We're still seeing the last year's bike
Oh,
ride around.
sorry. Let me. Here you go. Yeah, so this is the graphic that I hopefully they'll give us an editable version because they have like at 1 asterisk and then also 2 asterisks and then some of them are question marks. And it's basically because it depends on each municipality's ordinances on whether they would allow them in certain places. So hopefully we can get one version that just has Middleton's, ordinances on there and then include it in our active transportation plan.
Kirsten.
Yeah, this is actually something I've been studying a lot lately because Middleton Bike Park and Blackhawk have had huge issues with e-motos lately, enormous issues, as have all mountain bike trails. And we're going to start seeing them come through Pheasant Branch Conservancy like wildfire in upcoming years. I'd encourage everybody to look up e-motos so you know what they are. But they do a lot of damage. They're very dangerous. Most municipalities do not allow class 3 e-bikes on any trails, anything with throttle that are not pedal assist. Most municipalities, period, do not allow it. You'll see a lot in Middleton. I've seen a huge increase of the fat bikes that are class 3 throttle. And that they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. Very, very dangerous. So I don't know. I mean, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to work with the police department to pass a law so that the police have the ability to fine or ticket people that are using these on paths or in bike lanes or trails.
Brad?
I find the question marks on this graphic to be misleading and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you just for bicycles on sidewalks, we don't know, but then we say that class one e-bikes are allowed dependent on bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
Just something other than a question mark, I think would make this a lot clearer
Okay. Yeah.
if we have the ability to change it in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was thinking like if we could just get a version of it so that we don't have to have a question, or we can just have a check or an X for
Yeah.
Middleton specifically. Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
Right. Because like what Daphne was saying, for us for bicycles, that's a check, not a
Right,
question mark.
right.
Right.
Uh, Keaton.
Yeah, first of all, I just kind of had a question. Do we have any existing ordinances or regulations pertaining to these, or is this kind of the initial discussion, getting the ball rolling there?
Yeah, so I mean, we have basic regulations on like at the state level, basically the state said,
Yeah.
every municipality can determine if
Hmm.
bicycles are allowed on a sidewalk or not.
Yeah.
And so in Middleton, we allow them on the sidewalks.
Hmm.
And then we consider, certain e-bikes like the class one and two to be essentially like bicycles. So those would essentially be also allowed on the sidewalks. And then as Kirsten said, the class three are probably not allowed on sidewalks. Maybe not even, I'm sure maybe they're allowed on the streets. So yeah, so those are things that we would have to look into. And yeah, and that's why there's so many like asterisks and question marks, because the state allows every municipality kind of to do whatever they decide. Um, and so yeah, that's why the MPO was like, well, it just depends, because Sun Prairie might allow it, but like Middleton might not. And so yeah, that's why it would be, I like this graphic. I just hope we can, use it for, tweak it so it's just for Middleton in the future. Yeah.
Daphne,
Yeah.
we on sidewalks, do we allow bicycles on sidewalks that are abutting businesses? Because Madison does not.
Hmm.
I don't think in our ordinance we have like, we don't get into that many specifics. I think it just says we allow
We
them on sidewalks.
we do have a limitation
Okay.
of, I forget what the amount is, at a certain distance from the frontage of a building. That
Okay.
means, so technically, this really only applies to downtown Middleton,
Right.
um, where the sidewalks and the building fronts are extremely close, and like the one section of University where the sports bowl has its thing right there, and then I guess it's a handful of businesses in a specific section of University. Um, it doesn't apply. It functionally it doesn't apply to most, and it's not businesses specifically. It's within a certain. It's like within 15 feet, I want to say.
Mm.
Um,
Like around
Yeah,
Stone
thanks.
Green.
Yep. Just wanted to make sure I was aware of any like Middleton specific stuff going on. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me know if you can see my screen now. I remember Scott was specifically looking into this too as part of the ATP. So he found, yeah, so this section of our ordinance says bicycles may be operated on all sidewalks except where adjacent buildings are 5 feet or less from the nearest edge of the sidewalk. So yeah.
So, going back to the questions uh, on the agenda, does anybody have any issues with the definitions of the different devices? I feel like we talked a bit about figure one. And then are there things that should be added or clarified to the regulations that would be helpful to have in Middleton specifically? I feel like we probably mention our 5 feet of the building
Mm-hmm.
thing there on our where to write and roll
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
guide. Anything else?
Going back under the micromobility, I would just say things like electric wheelchairs.
Mm.
Because people don't really think about, the electric wheelchairs or the electric scooter wheelchairs as being micromobility, but that is a big part of it.
They do mention, I believe they mention those in under the definition of pedestrian, but
Oh yeah.
yes. But yeah, I think
Oh.
yeah, I think there is a little
Mm.
it is a little confusing because there's that OPDMD. There's got to be a more fun way to say that. That OPDMD thing used by a physically disabled person counts as pedestrian. So I think we might want to make sure that we're making the distinction there clear. Brad.
Is will part of this include a way for someone to know what kind of e-bike they have? Like if
Mm.
I'm a regular consumer, I don't know what class my bicycle is. Uh, and we're saying a number of things, but that those aren't clear terms for like just an average e-bike user. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so if I don't know what the speed is on, so like how many watts does my bike go? What is the top speed? If I don't know these things, is there an easier way to just share it with the user so they know if they're allowed to ride it where they're supposed to or not?
Mm.
Because these are clear definitions if you know what you're talking about,
Right.
but not necessarily if you're like new to using the bike. And I don't have a suggestion as how to make it clear. I just feel that some people won't understand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's just like knowing that if it reaches like 20 miles per hour, that's okay. Because I think the class 3 can go up to, I think it says 28. So basically anything faster than that assisted up to 20 miles per hour is okay. And yeah, I think that's definitely something that we should be like educating people a lot more on.
Or something to the effect of if you don't need to pedal your bicycle, you can't use it here.
Mm.
Is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no pedals, no trails, I think is the goal here. If it doesn't have if it looks like a bike but you don't pedal it, it doesn't belong on the trails. Gravel, paved, otherwise. You want to use that on the road, that's fine. And I think this is somewhere where we can really use our city communications staff once we say, hey, we need to get a campaign together, maybe put that as part of bike week, like part of the safety. Hey, what can I ride on the
Mm.
trails? How fast is 20 miles an hour? Right? Not a terrible idea if we had one of those temporary, those little signs that tell you how fast you're going. Because
Hmm.
I'll admit, I rode an e-bike for the first time when B Cycle had their event, and we went around the creek corridor, And I was like, holy smokes, I had no idea I was going 18 miles an hour. Like, so I think you go faster than you think you are. And so I think it's going to be helpful to kind of bring that. I like that in the report, you know, they talked about speed limits, sort of, but then brought out that it's really basically impossible to enforce those. Like, we just don't and I, you know, heck, if we can't give out speeding tickets on high road, we're not going to be able to police that. But I think signage is going to be really important, right? And as well as you know, public awareness campaigns. If we can do it for crosswalks, we should be able to do it for bikes and trails and what's appropriate. Thanks.
I think that reminds us long term the same visual tricks that we need to be applying to communicate to drivers how fast they are going. We need to be using those to communicate to cyclists how fast they're going, because there are well-trained cyclists who can do 30 on a pedal bike. Um, so just to visually communicate, because yeah, humans are actually really terrible at that. Heaton.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of piggyback off of discussion relating to like ticketing and enforcement. Yeah, I really don't think it's like feasible, possible to actually enforce it all. But I don't think that just because it's difficult to enforce, we should discount the notion of having like a fine or a ticketing or regulations or whatever in place. If the recourse more than anything. Um, no, yeah, I just don't think that if we can't actively enforce it, we shouldn't have it necessarily. It's still a standard that people can hold themselves to, and we can point to it and say, hey, look, here's the informational stuff. This is grounded in these ordinances or these policies.
Mhm.
Any other feedback for Daphne? All right. Those are the three relatively serious agenda items out of the way then. Moving on to agenda item number 4. This is a kind of harebrained idea I had that I ran by Daphne, and she said, sure, sounds fun. Um, so if you were at the Public Works meeting, the joint meeting, you may remember that I mentioned it's kind of hard to evaluate the high road plan without having that functional classification in front of us. So kind of wanted to just do a brief overview of functional classifications, um, and then doodle a bit, um,
Mhm.
which will be an interesting exercise in telling Daphne what to draw, or something like that. She may have changed exactly how we're doing that. Anyway, so Daphne, do you want to do this, or do you want to
Sure,
keep
I'll just
me
give like a very quick
honest? Okay.
overview. Yeah, because this was also at the Greater Madison Metropolitan Planning Organization. They apparently back in October, they had gotten revised functional classifications from the Department of Transportation, and then they just gave us like a very quick overview of, you know, what they are, and like so they gave us this little PowerPoint that I included in your packet. So it basically just explains, you know, all the different types of road types. So there's the arterials, which is, you know, getting everyone, and you know, Tad has talked about this a lot in his Complete Streets Guide. You know, that's to get people, you know, where they need to go at high volumes, high speeds. And so then they split them into principal and minor. Um, here in Wisconsin. And then there's also collectors, which are basically like in between the local, which is, local streets that get you, to your exact location, and the arterials. And so typically they say the collectors are like where you can get to, the stores and all, and, parks, maybe where you work. Collectors should be getting you, basically from like a municipality, maybe from one municipality to another municipality, something like that. Um, and then there's the local roads, which get you, basically in front of exactly where you need to go. These are, lowest speeds, possibly a lot more intersections and a lot more users on those streets as well. So those are the functional classifications. And then they also just gave like an overview of, how a percentage of, all of Wisconsin that are these different classifications. And then they have all of these things that go into factoring, when they consider all of these things. And so one thing that they really pressed into us was the classifications are not what you wish the road would be, but how they function currently. So they look at the traffic volume, they look at continuity, and then, the land uses around that area. And so, as the land uses change and then, traffic can change because of those land use changes, then they'll consider, they will do some reconsiderations if, we would have to kind of initiate that. But, as they are right now is basically how they would like the maps to go. And so they basically do this every 10 years or so. So, the last ones were done in 2015, 2016. So now in 2026, they're looking for edits to the classification. So I showed the map briefly before, but I think Tad wants us to do our activity first, and then we can see how we maybe compare to the map that the DOT gave us. So yeah, honestly, Tad, I have I can share this. Can you guys see the paint that I have of the map of Middleton? And then we have principal arterials in red, minor in green, major collectors orange, and then local streets. We could probably just leave as regular, or I can turn them gray if you really want to designate, a specific street, a local street. But yeah, and we can just go from there.
Well, the easiest thing might be to start with, I don't think we're gonna change the principal arterials at all. So we can just doodle those in. And
Yeah, so
that's
that would be the belt line, right? Is like
that's
our
the belt
biggest
line,
one.
yeah. And then University and Century are both those.
Oops. You'll see how bad I am at controlling my mouse skills.
And then for us, it looks like Q is also designated a principal. So that's both Q on the east edge and Allen.
Alan.
Yeah. And I think those, yeah, those are the principal boundaries. Um,
Hmm.
I
Yeah, and
just,
that makes sense because these are all the highways and basically how you get from one
mhm.
highway to the other highway. So yeah.
I just want to take a moment, if anybody's ever read the comic book Bone, to point out that the central area there looks like the face of the Great Red Dragon. I feel I need people to know this. Um, so there's that. So then we have the minor arterials as designated are Park, south of University, and Parmenter between University and going all the way up to the top of the Beltline.
Okay.
And and at this point, I'm going to say I don't really have a problem with any of these within the next 10 years. Um, I guess let's do the collectors we know.
Okay.
So High Road for sure,
Hmm.
and that continues down where it becomes Park Lawn down to University.
High Point, right?
Point.
Yeah, High Point. High Point and Old Middleton slash Elmwood.
Elmwood.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does
then
it go?
Gammon too, or Park Gammon.
Well, yeah. Park Gammon's the minor arterial. Um, Maywood between Park and Allen.
Between Park and Allen.
Yeah. Branch. And this one actually kind of confuses me. Can't, I never remember the name. That little triangle cutoff south of Lakeview Park.
South of Mendota.
Yeah, that one's a little weird to me. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
I
doesn't.
take this one all the time because in the morning I don't get caught in the Sauk Trail, Cromery, all that, you know, congestion with
Oh,
school drop off. So I go down Allen and then I cut through Mendota to get to
hmm.
University Avenue.
Even with that weird
Yeah.
intersection where it hits University.
Yep,
Interesting.
even with the weird intersection.
Does Pleasant View also count?
Mm. Pleasant View could be our one of the arterials,
Where is
especially
Pleasant View?
it's like over here on the west side. I think it might be a principal, especially after they like
Oh,
redid
yeah, it is a
them.
principal.
Yeah. All the people going down to Epic, I think, use Pleasant View.
Yeah.
I'd also say, unfortunately, the Greenbrier is probably a collector.
Mm.
Yeah, it's on there as that for now. Um, I think we're
And then,
getting into the
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Tad, just something through Greenway. I wouldn't guess which one, but maybe Deming just through Greenway
Is a
as a at
collector?
least a collector. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a collector, looks like.
The whole way through, like up this way, up to Century or up to
So
Airport.
I would
actually it
also say
cuts
no.
off, it looks like the collector designation cuts off and goes around Greenway itself.
Oh,
So it doesn't follow dimming through the mall. It jumps off to
John Q. Hammond
whatever
or
it
whatever.
this
is.
one.
Yeah,
Oh,
John Q.
okay.
Hammond and goes down that way. But it does follow dimming up through there. And it looks like most of the business park stuff is collector. I think this is where it's interesting because we get to the point where we can look at the map and see what it says, and this is where
Mm,
we can definitely start having opinions
yeah.
because they, on the one hand, they say it's not aspirational, it's based off volume, but
Mm-hmm.
but but come on, dimming in the business park
Yeah.
north of Costco,
I would say maybe
outs
around Kiva, this area could still be a collector just because of Kiva itself.
right,
But yeah, everything
right,
over I
exactly.
get rid of everything. Here, I'll just
With the volume of Valley Ridge Road, what would you put that at?
Valley Ridge over here.
I mean, they have it, they
Hmm.
just leave it as a local.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
the volume is it's
Well,
same
and I
as
think
bus route.
right. And I
Hmm.
think that's another thing because you get like Park Lawn is collector, and during school hours it might actually hit that volume, but its total ADT is, I think it's like 4,000, which I guess, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe I'm too grown up in the DC metro area and just like see all of this as being small, but I think you do get that exact thing though over on Valley Ridge where you have the volume and the volume and the road design conflict, and then you don't so part of why I wanted to do this is I do have aspirations for Bellefontaine within
Mm.
this system
Hmm.
to just be a minor arterial. I think that's the
Hmm.
long, and we want it to be kind of that neighborhood edge on the north side. And that helps focus the traffic there so that we're trying to not trying to just say, "Oh well, everybody did a thing we didn't want. Guess we'll have to bulldoze somebody's house to build that road bigger." We
I
want to have
would
a
comment.
plan.
Oh, sorry, Tab. Just to
No, I
back
that's
that
yeah.
to back that up. So when Misty Valley opened up to Graber Road a few like months ago,
Mm.
um, that has become what we want Bellefontaine to be. We're getting a lot of traffic.
Mm.
People are skipping Greenbrier and they're taking Misty Valley over to Parmenter. Um,
It goes up this way, right? Something like
yes,
that. Yeah.
yes. So I think the traffic is there to justify Bellefontaine becoming that. It's driving people nuts that people are using Misty Valley that way right now.
Mm. Yeah, well, actually, Brad, and that's a good point because we're having a traffic safety meeting in a couple weeks, and that's one of our main topics is, they're thinking of doing like a four-way stop or something at
Yeah.
that intersection because yeah, we've heard a lot about now that that's open. We've got a lot of people going really fast down that road. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so if I think kind of going back to Kirsten's, if we have that significant issue, Valley Ridge, right, where
Hmm.
there's too much volume when it's parallel to a principal arterial, then we need to really look at why people are doing that. Um, and maybe it should be collector. I think it's interesting too because they say it's not aspirational, but looking at the implications of these, the designations only change what you can and can't get federal and maybe state funding for, right?
Hmm.
Well, I guess state probably does provide money for local roads too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to impact how we design them, which is good to know. So it seems like we can continue, and correct me if I'm wrong about that, Daphne. It seems like we can still say we we want some safety things here. And
Mhm.
just because it's a collector, there's nothing saying we can't do that. So
Right.
that's really good information to have.
Mhm.
And Valley Ridge is an
Um,
interesting thing because it was redesigned not that long ago. I want to say, Daphne, what, 8 years ago, where they put the speed humps
Oh yeah.
or
Mhm.
5 speed humps on it because it's the main road that goes into North Lake and Orchid
Mhm.
Heights, other than Q. And during rush hour in the morning and in the evening, it is nonstop traffic. Plus the R1 goes, or R2, wait, R2. I'm sorry, R2 bus runs along there. So,
Yeah.
but the speed humps, I mean, I live on Valley Ridge. My balcony faces it. Um, People are flying. They'll slam on their brakes for the speed hump and then go 45 in between.
yeah, I will not rant about speed humps right now. We're still doing this. Um, Also from the map, Donna
Mm.
Frank Lloyd Wright, Pheasant. That's Pheasant Branch, right?
Yeah. This area.
This is where walking and busing all the time means I don't actually pay as much attention to the road names as other people do.
I would say Donna at some points of the day has a higher volume than even Century Avenue because people are using it as a cut through. So
Hmm.
during the school pickup and drop off and during rush hour, I think it probably has a higher volume than west of High Road on Century.
Yeah, that's another thing, and kind of related to my mentioning of it doesn't seem like we can't redesign these. There's no distinction between some of these roads, what type they are.
Mhm.
You know, they're just all road, and people are supposed to figure out what to do about that. Anyway, I mean I think a really egregious example of that is that Donna is a collector and somehow Maywood is also a collector, and they have radically different characters,
Mm.
just as streets and as designs. But they're supposed to carry similar volumes of traffic at similar speeds. It it doesn't really make sense. Um, Now, um, I kind of this will show up in the CSG, but I kind of want to use the collector definition as the large volume being somewhere. So I think some of these collectors designations end up being fine for that, but there's also some considerations of what we might need to do, as Kirsten has pointed out, with some like school drop-off traffic on some of these roads that just is outsized relative to its volume the rest of the day or on a Saturday or Sunday. So, um,
And the main thing with Donna is Donna does not have stoplights. Century does. So people coming off of the Beltline onto Parmenter, they are going to take the road without stoplights. So they're going to take Donna because our stoplights are designed on Century that if you hit one red, you're going to hit them all. And people know that they've been trained, so they take Donna.
there's that. Also, when I did drive, if I was coming that direction, I usually would cut off onto Donna because going all the way up to Parmenter and then taking University sent me way out of my way because I lived between Donna and Branch. So it it is one of those things when all the streets look the same and you've got all these things and there's nothing. I'm exactly the kind of person that I would kind of like to put a diverter in there to make, because boy, I didn't follow the ideal. I followed what was on the ground.
Mhm. So would you suggest upgrading Donna to a minor arterial,
No,
possibly? No?
like
Okay.
long term I want Donna. I like Donna as a collector. I just want to
Yeah.
think about the implications of actually making it look like a
Right.
collector as
Right.
opposed to, because yeah, I do think historically we've gone with that, oops, it didn't work out like we did. I guess we'll just make it bigger. But that's exactly why we keep finding ourselves in this, like the main side of our business as a committee. That's why we find ourselves in this issue where nobody walks, bikes, or takes transit because you have to cross giant streets. There's no safe place to bike, and there's not enough transit.
Mhm.
So we have to think about how to detour people from taking Donna unless they're going to the school or into the neighborhood to their homes.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So lots of fun thoughts down the road. Like this is just kind of, uh, I guess, unless anybody wants to keep doing the mapping part, maybe we should go to the actual map to
Yeah, let's
take a look at
go.
it.
Yeah, I was thinking, so yeah, I basically agree with everything that you guys drew out, and it is pretty similar to what they had, except for this is the Deming Way area in that business road, which I agree should probably be downgraded. Um, Another interesting thing I saw was this is the Graber, Spring Hill, Whittlesey, I think, is this part. And they say this whole thing is a collector. And I mean, I don't go up there that often, but I don't see people using it like
It is
that.
definitely not. It is
Yeah,
100% not.
okay. Okay, yeah. Because I think they had at one point we had said, Graber would connect to Whittlesey. I think it's in our like official map. But with the new neighborhood that's going in there, they're definitely not connecting it that way. So yeah, I think this could definitely be downgraded as well.
Right. Do we have any more feedback on that right now? Okay, let's finish up then with item number 5. Um, so I'm trying to get back the complete streets guide. I did add new text, getting back into the groove we had been in before, where I present text and give you a month to review it, and then we could talk about it next meeting. So most of that you see underneath the definitions, the I redrafted the principles and the functions. Yeah, the principles and the functions, with the feedback that you guys had given me before. So we can talk about that next time. I did want to go over the definitions real quick, and I promise I'll keep this short. Um, this is something that occurred to me as I was walking home from the joint meeting, uh, because of course we'd been talking about raised crosswalks, and I was realizing I was realizing I keep stumping for continuous sidewalks, and other people say raised crosswalks, and they are technically two different things. And so I wanted to make sure one, that when I stump for continuous sidewalks, I make clear that it's more than just a raised crosswalk. But as I was going through these definitions, and especially, I was realizing, you know, because I keep stumping for raised crosswalks in my mind, I keep saying, I mean, for continuous, see, I'm even confusing it. For continuous sidewalks, in my mind, I'm saying not across the collector because I want them to emphasize priority. And then I realized, wait a second, raised crosswalks don't significantly slow traffic. They only provide an elevation thing. Let's slap them across the roads. It should be fine. Anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is that definition, making sure that definitional difference is clear is like one of my personal bugbears. So I'm bringing that up as an example of what kinds of definitions do we need to make clear? And kind of, I want to start right now by seeing if you guys have any particular definitions you've been wondering about, that we need to look up, that we need to make clear and yeah. And just speak up as it comes to mind.
So one thing is the multi-use lane versus bike lanes. I think that we need to definitely list. It's not something that, I'm confused about, but I think a lot of people get confused. Multi-use path versus bike path. Especially because we are looking at adding more of that. A great example would be if we are gonna, North Mendota, great example.
Is there a proper definition of a protected bike path?
Yeah. Like there's a bike lane, a buffered bike lane, and a protected bike lane. Those are all, yeah.
So what would the difference be?
Buffered
A
would be
bike,
Old Middleton,
Okay.
right? So, where you have the 2-foot barrier or the 2-foot like separate lane next to you.
Yep.
And then Seago would
Is
be a
protected.
mix, right? Tad Seago has several.
Seago, that's true. Right, that's true.
Buffered,
So Seago
protected,
has, yeah, yeah. Like especially the old part of Seago is the classic just bike lane. It's just there.
buffered.
Then, well, the like the farthest south parts are still just plain bike lane, aren't
Buffered.
they?
Buffered.
They do go to Buffered. Okay.
Yep.
Well, imagine that they're for a minute that they're just a plain bike lane. That's where the only thing separating you, well, like Park in Middleton, is just a plain bike lane. It's just a line between you and the cars. Buffered right is space, but it's paint. And then protected bike lane, like at a minimum, there's some posts, but really we're looking for concrete
Is
to
it
be.
Bassett or Maine downtown that has all the bollards?
I don't remember the street names downtown, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like it was a buffered, and then I think they just added bollards into that buffered area to make it like a more protected. Yeah.
It goes right.
They've been.
Yeah, the radio station worked.
I honestly think it's weird that Maine in Madison is where it is. Like, I'm not sure I even knew where it was before about a month ago. And I was like, there's a Main Street in Madison? I would have never guessed. but also yeah, they've been doing a lot of significant improvements for the bike infrastructure downtown. So I haven't been able to keep up with all of them.
The one issue with the protected bike lanes, unless you have snow removal with the brushes and the smaller snow removal vehicles, they cannot be used.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've been talking to Madison's like streets crew a lot about it. Like, this past winter I was like, how did you guys clear it? And they're like, well, we got to it last. And so they're still working out some kinks with how to maintain all of those things that they're putting in. But I mean, the biggest hurdle was for them was getting the equipment. And so now that they have the equipment, they can get the crews out. So now they're just working on timing because also when the big snowplow goes through, if they've already plowed the little, the buffered section, then they have to go back in and redo that section. So yeah, they're still working out the kinks of all that. But
And since
yeah.
we don't have any storage for new equipment, we
Yeah.
can't even think about that.
And then I think
Other
another thing
things.
that Kirsten you brought up that reminded me was our Parks Department had a big question about like, well, are these shared use paths, multi-use paths, trails, like what are the difference between all of those things? And so that is something that I think we're working on, determining, and we're trying to be consistent with the county with all of those as well. But yeah, that is something we're looking into to actually define what's a path, what's a trail, and all that.
Well, we're on a quick pause. Daphne, I know you're leaving, but Jim Blodgett, I had messaged him. He said that he would be happy to teach a class and he'll be kind of the bike fed so we can have that during bike week. So you've got Jim and I'll connect you through his email.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much.
If you think of anything else, uh, do not hesitate to email. Um, and I will make sure to include it. All right. Um, do we have any? We have no scheduled staff updates, but nothing's occurred to you while we're here. Okay. Uh, if you have future items, email Daphne and she will get to them after she's back from Japan, where she will have a lot of fun.
I'll have an update for you guys in April.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also just another thing, I messaged all of you, and we mentioned this earlier, but our next April meeting will be April 9th instead of April 2nd because of Passover.
And I will be in Japan then, so somebody else is gonna get stuck with moving things along. Kirsten.
And I just want to, Tad and I wanted to thank everybody on the committee. Both of us talked about it, and everybody here has dedicated so much energy and time, and we both appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks for being our fearless leaders.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our agenda for the night, so we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.